talking about Pather Panchali, Mrinal Sen said that Ray opened up new ways and that it was immediately contagious. Ray is also very much referred as being a revolutionary filmmaker in India. What is your opinion about this? With the fact that his first film broke up so much conventions.
Pather Panchali broke every convention in the book of Indian cinema. Just about everything. It didn't use makeup. It used a lot of non-actors. It shot in real interiors and great deal in outdoors. Its lighting was extremely different, sometimes quite harsh and realistic lighting. It had no songs, no dances. It had an old woman who was about to die. Really about to die. I mean, she died after a few months after the film was finished. And she had the skin of a crocodile, her back and arms and so on. This kind of thing nobody had ever seen in cinema in India. You had seen a little bit of it elsewhere in, say, Robert Flaherty's films and so on, but not even there, not to the same extent. In Pather Panchali, what was extraordinary was the revelation, was the contrast between what is ugly and what is beautiful. It is not a collection of beautiful things. When Harihar sits down to eat, before that he raises his arm and with a cloth he wipes his armpit. Well, that's not a beautiful sight. But the next moment, when the children come out, it becomes beautiful. And then they go to see the train or whatever. When the old woman dies, there's something very harsh in the death itself. But what I'm trying to say is that the contrast between the beautiful and the ugly is thoroughly maintained. The ugly is ugly. There's no question about it. You can't.
You want something?
No. Can't play back what you said? No.
Yes, we can.
You can.
I just.
Do you want to close the door?
It's part of the house.
Ok. 9 sur 2 cinquièmes. T'attends juste une seconde.
Oui.
C'est allé. Ok.
It's like the coexistence of life and death, side by side. The harsh and the beautiful. And the film flows quite like Indian music. Not pre-composed music, but music which comes out of a constant contemplation. I'll do that again.
Okay.
I looked too many.
I'm sorry, I wasn't looking at you.
Not at you.
It's my fault.
It's a little like the coexistence of of life and death, as it were. And the flow of the film then becomes very Indian. It's a free-flowing, it has a sort of free-flowing form, and it does not suggest a rigidly prepared kind of composition which is followed in the filmmaking. If you contrast it with, say, Charulata. Charulata is exquisite, and it's exquisitely made. It completely fills its design. It is designed beforehand, and everything, every little bit falls into its exact place. Whereas in the trilogy, you don't know where the exact place is or will be. It seems to go on its own. It has life of its own, like Indian music, which keeps on inventing itself. While it is being sung, while it is being played, it is inventing itself. You have that feeling most of all, I think, in Opus Sansar. So while with the adult Opus, you get this kind of free-flowing, inspirational composition. Which is so different from Western music that Ray talks about quite a lot. Hello? Hello? Huh? Oh, acha. Ratna? হ্যাঁ আছেন সুপ্রিয়া ধরো একটু সুপ্রিয়া তুমি ওদিকে ফোনটা নাও ধরো ফোন ধরো টেলিফোন রত্না এটা তো ছেড়ে দিয়েছি আমি
তাহলে কার ফোনটা কোন রত্না
ওই পাশের বাড়ির রত্না
Is there anything you want to add to what you just said?
No, I think it's enough.
Okay. Could you say that history, the historical situation of the 50s helped Ray to become a pioneer? Because you could consider that he was the right person at the right moment. And he had to start working in a cultural context where he had to invent almost everything. He had to invent new language, vocabulary, syntax, treatment, whatever you can think of. But this, of course, don't, with full respect, of course, I'm saying this.
In a sense, one can say that Pather Panchali and Ray had to happen. There was this Marxist historical inevitability to it. Because, for instance, much had happened in literature, in Bengali fiction, for instance, which was of a very superior order. And the things that we praise in Pather Panchali had already existed in literature for decades and had failed to touch the cinema. You had seen it in many spheres, in the inventive dancing of Uday Shankar, in the theatre, Shambhu Mitra's theatre of the Indian People's Theatre Association, with Navan, which was in 1942, I think, or 44, thereabouts. I can't remember the exact date. the exploration of reality and an understanding of it and a sense of affinity with it, a sense of unity with it, had already developed in the other arts. And yet here was this medium of realism. You put a camera in front of something and it photographs that something exactly. You had that kind of a medium, and that medium was untouched by the urge for realism. And the urge for realism itself was connected with something else, which is the realization of the poverty of the masses, of people, and the need to do something about it.
Maybe you could start again from...
In a sense, Pather Panchali and Ray had to happen. There was a sort of what the Marxists call historical inevitability to it. First, because the Bengal Renaissance had gradually developed an understanding of present-day reality, the crisis in which the country stood between tradition and modernity, between orthodoxy and reform, and also a realization of the enormous reality of poverty of the common people, the enormous difference between the rich and the poor, and the problems that independent India would face. And these realizations had taken place, had expressed themselves already in literature. Literature had already foreseen, long before independence, what the country would have to face. But cinema had not. Cinema is a medium of realism. You put a camera in front of an object and you photograph it. Exactly. Yet that medium was completely given to myth, to mythicalization of even of the present, not only of the past but of the present as well, and of the future. So it had to come. At one point, the light of reason, of apprehension of reality had to touch the cinema. It had already happened, as I said, in literature. It had already begun to happen in dancing, with the innovative dancing of Uday Shankar. It had started to happen in painting, in Rabindranath Tagore's paintings, for instance. It was not realism that Rabindranath Tagore's paintings expressed, but they expressed something entirely new, a new way of looking at reality. And the paintings of Amrita Shergill, in which you began to see India and the people of India in a different light. Shergill was an extraordinary painter, and she came from Budapest. Her father was an Indian, her mother was Hungarian, and she had learnt her craft in Paris. But she somehow was herself transformed, and she transformed painting too, and brought out a new expression of India, seen through today's eyes. In around, this was about 1930s, 37, 38, thereabouts. Rabindranath also began to paint when he was in his 70s, which must have been about, again in the 30s. Shergill had begun even earlier. Shergill was the first modern painter. So, in all these spheres, the reality had begun to express itself. In India, Indians of today had begun to look at Indian reality with their own eyes, not taught by anybody, not through the colored glasses of other cultures, but directly. And in cinema, it happened with Ray.